If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just up here on the right.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
Kinda got a sixth sense.
And a head-up display.
They're here.
Hit the field, warm up. You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yeah,
So you.
it is.
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate prize. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Okay, hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew here, live and direct. Some of us are in our home studios. Others of us are on assignment, but finding a way to get the job done and doing a little double duty today. Drew, Which one of us is in the home studio? Which one of us is doing double duty today, my friend? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. You got to make sure unmute yourself.
Oh. Considering I don't have my Black Wall Street poster behind me, I would vote that I was the one that is on the road. I am on assignment in Montgomery, Alabama, getting some things prepared for the Tyson Foods Black College World Series that will be tipping off first pitch will be in 11 days, Brian.
I think what would have gave that away is as soon as you came on, you sounded highly digitized. And so, yes, Drew is not at home where he has the inner makings of his normal home studio setup. He sounds highly digitized. So, Drew, and if he is
and I'm on my iPad instead of with my normal equipment.
Yes. So obviously, Drew powering through on this episode. So I think that was the dead giveaway. That was the giveaway the minute you unmuted your mic there that you were on assignment. So appreciate you filling in, doing double duty. And shout out to actually we're getting this done without our lead producer, our CEO, who's taking some time for himself on assignment.
Also on assignment.
Taking some personal time. So good for him. Maybe I'll get an opportunity to do that as well sometime soon. But and hey, also it's the beginning of Teachers Appreciation Week. So hey, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, Drew, to you. I'm going to pat myself and say,
and also
happy,
to you.
Yes, sir. And to all of the teachers and educators out there in America, it's your week, and hopefully your students show you some love. And anybody else who's out there, if you have a child who are in school, make sure you show that teacher that at your school, show them some love this week. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. Every little bit helps. Whether it be a gift card, a cup of coffee, something or other, but anything that you can do to help show some love to your teachers. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. So give the teachers some love this week. Hey, want to thank you guys for watching us. If you're watching us out on YouTube or on Facebook, please make sure to go and hit that like button. Go ahead and make sure you're subscribed to the Jericho Broadcast Networks and the Black College Sports Network. Make sure you're following us on our social media pages at MyBCSN1, the number 1. And so already my producer slash co-host has left me out on the island here as he's trying to sort through some technical things, I'm sure. But coming up a little bit later at the top of hour 2, Brandon BJ Jones is going to be joining us, and we'll get a chance to get his take and his thoughts on the 2022 NFL draft. 4 HBCU players were drafted, all of them on day number 4. Many of the names were the names that we sort of expected. There were a few names that were not drafted. Last week, maybe even the week before, we were sort of setting an unofficial line at 4.5. And the question we kept putting out there is, would more or less than 4.5 players be drafted? Basically, what we're saying is, would there be 5 or more or 4 or less? And I think most people were optimistic that there would be 5. And I think if you look at the names that we consistently saw on the mock drafts, you had names like Jacoby Durant, Joshua Williams, Marquise Bell, Jatyree Carter. You also had James Houston, a name that popped up in a lot of people's boards. And there were a few other names. Some guys, of course, Aqeel Glass, some other names that popped up, but there were only 4 guys that got drafted. And look, considering the past 2 years, there was 1. I mean, you actually had a year where none were drafted, and then I think that was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. In 2021, there was 1 player drafted. 4 is progress. So, as miffed, frustrated, confused, shocked, let's be smart about how we react to this and call it progress. One of the things that I have been cautioning people since last year is that there was probably more players that would go the undrafted free agent route than would actually go the drafted route. And if you follow the draft and you paid attention to the draft, a lot of the scouting reports that many people had was completely, I won't say completely, but it was off. It seemed like there was more defenders, more receivers, fewer running backs, fewer linebackers. I think in total, I think there were 20 FCS players that were actually drafted. Um, what I found funny on a personal note, I thought of this NFL league, and back is AD Drew. Drew, one of the things that I found funny about the draft is that I've heard it called a television show about quarterbacks. And if you think about how the rules are structured, if you think about what it takes to be a successful team, that sounds pretty accurate. A television show about quarterbacks. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you're not winning a Super Bowl, most likely. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not a feature game on prime time most of the time. The contracts, the big money goes to the quarterbacks. And so, as we saw in the draft, there was only 1 guy who was drafted in the first round, Kenny Pickett, Pitt. Of course, he goes to Pittsburgh, where his team played, his college team played, where they used their facilities. There was a hometown connection. But then, there was a clamoring to see when the next quarterback was going to be drafted. He didn't go in the later first round. He didn't go in the second round. And it was really starting to bother. If you were anybody, I think I watched the NFL Network on day 2. I don't know which channel did you happen to watch, if you did watch any of the draft?
I watched more ESPN than I did NFL Network.
And did you get a sense that as names went by that they were really kept, and maybe even going into a break, they said, we'll come back and see when will so-and-so take the next quarterback? There was, did you get any sense, did you feel like there was an overemphasis of when the next quarterback would be taken?
Well, Brian, this was a weak quarterback draft. I mean, there was no standout, gotta have quarterback. There was no Trevor Lawrence in this draft. There was not even a Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson in this draft where you drafted him on his upside. So it did not surprise me at all that quarterbacks were mainly day 3 products of the draft. I believe there were only 3 quarterbacks taken in the first 2 days. Correct me if I'm wrong with that number, Brian.
There were 4 taken in the first 2 days.
Okay, yeah. I lost one in there. But, we've seen 4 taken in the top 15 picks in other years. Some years 4 in the first round. But this year, that was not the case. And also, Brian, you have to look at it. Most of the NFL teams have an established quarterback. There was no franchise quarterback. 20 of the 30 teams have what they consider their franchise quarterback. 20 of the 32 teams have what they consider their franchise quarterback. The other 12 teams have probably 8 of the other 12 teams have what they consider a good game manager. They have a serviceable quarterback. And really only leaves about 3 or 4 teams where you could take a quarterback in the number one, or this your number one draft pick, or even a second or third round draft pick. I mean, Brian, really, when you look at it, who needs a quarterback at that level? Maybe Atlanta?
Yeah, that's no.
Maybe Seattle?
But see, that's the question. See, Atlanta, yeah, put it like this. There were teams like Atlanta, for example, since you brought them up, where they have a guy to start this year, Marcus Mariota. But there are still people questioning, and Mariota was what, the number 2 overall pick back when he came out of college, came out of Oregon. And so you have a lot of people questioning whether he's the long-term solution in Atlanta. But look at this. Here's a trend for you that I found interesting from 2022 to 2021, and I'm pulling this information from a site that I like to go to called SportsWrap.com. There were let's see, 3, 4. Let's see, 3. Yeah, obviously there were 4 players drafted in the first 2 days, 1 in round 1, 3 in round 3, right? And then you had 1 in round 4, 1 in round 5, 3 in round 7. So that's a total of 9 quarterbacks taken in 2022.
Including Mr. Irrelevant was a quarterback.
Correct. Last player was Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant from Iowa State. Okay. Now, let's compare that to the previous year, 2021. You might be surprised to find that in that year, there were 10 quarterbacks drafted. But the difference is 5 of them went in the first round, 1 went in the second round, and 2 went in the third round. So 8 of the quarterbacks, you had 5 that went on the first day, 8 on the first 2 days, correct? So there's your big disparity between 1 year and the previous year. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll go back even 2 years. In 2020, you had 4 quarterbacks drafted on day 1, 1 additional drafted on day 2. Now that class had 12 quarterbacks drafted. And so I think, the scouts or the GMs and the teams really listen to what you said. This was sort of a bad year for quarterbacks, but you still have a lot of unproven guys. Like those guys from 2020, I mean, many of them are unproven. I mean, with the exception, if I go back and look at 2020 real quick, with the exception of Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, you're still trying to figure out, is Tua going to be the man in Miami? Jordan Love hasn't touched it yet. Jalen Hurts, is he going to be the man in Philly?
Jordan Love hasn't even hit the field.
Yeah, here's a guy that was drafted by my Colts, Jacob Eason. He's not even on the team anymore. So, it's just it's amazing how quickly it can turn for guys. But again, so where am I going with all that? I mentioned all that because, we had Emory Hunt on a few weeks, and I like Emory. I think he does a great job. And, I mean, for anybody to spend the time in scouting 1,000 guys, it's interesting to see how he evaluates guys and where they landed. I mean, there are guys in his top 12. Remember, I said Aqeel Glass was his number 12 guy. Emory had Aqeel Glass rated higher than Kenny Pickett, who went first round. Aqeel Glass did not get drafted. He signed an undrafted free agent contract. This came out late Saturday night, early Sunday morning with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I ask you, Drew, I mean, exposure, what do you think, unofficially, obviously, but in your opinion, what do you think is the difference between a guy like Aqeel Glass, who obviously has in his market has the resume, showed what he could do at the college all-star games, the college all-star bowl games, and a Kenny Pickett. You know, Kenny Pickett led Pitt to an ACC championship, but I mean, outside of that, what did he really accomplish outside of that?
Perception is reality, Brian. It is perceived that the Power 5 quarterback and the Power 5 athlete is a better athlete. So, perception is reality. If you perceive that that athlete is a better athlete, I don't want to use the word superior, but more skilled, more tested athlete, then that's what you're going to lean your draft pick on. It's almost like car shopping, Brian. If you are a Toyota man and you only own Toyotas because you've had success driving Toyotas, you're going to continue to buy a Toyota. Or you're going to buy the upgraded Toyota product, i.e. a Lexus. But you're going to stay in that same general genre. So that's what it is. If you're an F-150 man, you're not going to go buy a Nissan Titan. You're going to buy another F-150 when it comes time to buy a pickup truck. So it's the same thing when it comes to these quarterbacks. And you got to get them out, and like using the car analogy, you got to test drive these. You may even have to go to a rental car place and drive some of these other models to see. Same thing with these quarterbacks. They get to come in, they get test driven, or rent it during during the off-season workouts and during the preseason. That's when you get the opportunity to impress.
Your connection is beautiful, by the way. I just got to let you know. RoboCop has nothing on you. It's beautiful. I didn't do look, it's disappointing that again, we haven't had an HBCU quarterback drafted since Tavares Jackson. I believe that was 2007. Many people wanted to see Bowie State's highly decorated quarterback from a few years ago, Amir. My goodness, I can't. Amir Hall. Yeah, many people thought Amir Hall would get an opportunity. Here's what I think. I think there are games that prove you are capable of playing in the NFL. And I'm only going, I don't know this. I just feel like there are games where, as I'm listening to the commentators, and look, sometimes I don't know if the commentators know more than you and I. I mean, definitely they should, because they have more time to study film than you and I probably. And so they probably, should. But sometimes they say things that make you wonder, do they know more than you or I? I guess that's a better way of saying it. But I, for example, listen to and watch, and if you paid attention to whether it be our 4 draft picks, whether it be Joshua Williams, Jacoby Durant, James Houston, Jatiri Carter, in that order, by the way, with Joshua Williams, the D2 player going first. What they go and look at is certain games. Now, obviously, for Williams, they went to the combine workout. For Jacoby, they went to the game against Clemson. For James Houston, they actually went to his games at Florida, even though he probably had a more successful single season at Jackson State than he did maybe in any of his years at Florida. And then Carter, an offensive lineman, I don't know. We'll have to ask BJ whether Carter came from if he was a Division I FBS transfer coming to Southern. But what was Aqeel Glass's signature game? Now, and I say that because did he have a signature game against a signature opponent that, you know, if NFL teams ran the tape back and said, wow, you know, I don't know. Would you say any of the games against Jackson State or FAMU are comparable this past because of their defensive abilities? You know, those were 2 losses, but did he show himself to be an NFL level quarterback? And I'm just thinking as a scout here. I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes and see what they might be seeing, because we see
did
the
Alabama A&M play an FCS during Aqeel Glass's tenure there?
Maybe during the breakout.
If so, how did he perform in that game against the FCS? Like the Kobe Durant had film against FCS opponents. James Houston had film against FCS opponents. So, we talk all this about the money games, but having that film against an FCS opponent may be the key to getting on somebody's draft board. It's like, as a 1A or 2A basketball player, football player, are you that big of a fish out of water? Were you that superior of an athlete? No, we want to see you against a 6A or a 7A high school, depending on what you have in your particular state. And it's the same thing when it comes to these college players trying to go to the next level. I think that is part of the issue that we have here, Bryan.
Yeah, it's an and again, we started this talking about this is a league about quarterbacks, and I think we start there, but where HBCU players have most notably found success, or at least in terms of being drafted, seems to be up front in the trenches, or in that cornerback, wide receiver area. But nowadays,
who's the last wide receiver we had drafted?
That's why I was going to pause. I said that because I think the last ones were back in 2000 when you had, I think it was Sylvester Morris. There were 2 receivers drafted like in the first round back in like 2000 or 2001. But what I was going to say is, because of the style of offense,
you can't name anybody outside of Jimmy Smith and Jerry Rice that played wide receiver at a significant level, HBCU.
Well, like I said, the last ones were the guys. There was 2, I think, that were drafted in. Actually, no, one was a receiver. There was a receiver and a DB. There were 2 drafted in the first round. That was 2000 or 2001, I think it was. But that was the last time, you had a receiver that I recall from an HBCU being drafted. And if I'm wrong, somebody out there will tell me I'm wrong. But
speaking of that era, Bryan, we talked about skill position D-backs. The 2003 draft, most people probably don't even realize is Tuskegee University had both their quarterbacks drafted in the same draft. That being Drayton Florence, who was drafted by the then San Diego Chargers, and Frank Walker, who was drafted by the New York Giants. So, and that, I have to look it up, but Tuskegee may be the last HBCU to have 2 players drafted in the same class. I'm going to have to look that up because I don't think anyone else has had 2 players in the same class drafted.
That's a good one. Yeah, you guys let us know out there. When's the last time outside of that Tuskegee team that's had 2 guys drafted? I see some people. I'm looking at some people on. Definitely, there's some mention of FCS guys being FCS players just in general. But I think the way the game is now, if your offense is suited with this wide open style, I mean, there were how many receivers drafted in the first round? Like 6. You can get receivers. There's so many receivers out there now. It's almost like anybody who would have grown up maybe as I don't want to say maybe as a running back, it's kind of become a receiver. Once you get to a certain height, there are more receivers
You at least
now.
move to a slot, inside position.
I actually probably got guys who
running backs and linebackers are a dying breed.
Yeah. There are probably guys who 5-10 years ago would have stayed playing basketball, but because of the offenses now in high school and 7-on-7, you got guys who are probably coming out now for football and being wide receivers and actually getting scholarship offers because they do have the size and they were probably pretty good basketball players as well. But, they got an opportunity to go D1 a lot faster playing football than you do basketball, where the numbers are less. You know
why, Brian? A 6-foot guard playing basketball, 6'1" guard playing basketball is a D2 player a lot of times. A 6'1", 180 pound receiver is a slot receiver in football and can get a D1 scholarship, especially if you have any type of speed, 4.5 or below, 4.6 or below, coming out of high school.
Let's do this. Let's take a short break, short 2-minute pause for the cause. Come back. We're going to get into more talking about this 2022 NFL draft, and we'll go through some of the names as we know them of undrafted free agents. Also, the transfer portal, its last day is today. And of course, if you haven't been paying attention, there's some big breaking news that came out earlier today. We'll let you know about that if you haven't heard already. And we'll get into talking about baseball as we are less than 2 weeks away from the 2022 Tyson Foods Black College World Series in Montgomery, Alabama. We'll let you know who the 8 teams are and more. So hang in there for a couple of minutes. We'll be back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan and AD. Be back in a moment.
It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Timok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier Blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Major.
The Black College Law School's baseball championship will be crowned at the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. Albany State University, Bluefield State College, Edward Waters University, Florida Boyd University, Kentucky State University, Miles College, Rush College, and Talladega College will battle it out at Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium from May 11th through 14th for Black College Baseball's ultimate prize. Tickets are on sale now at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Co-hosting
Come back
/ producing.
Come back with that intro again, Brian.
And see, we come back. Take 2 in 3, 2, 1. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. 3, 2. You keep talking. It's supposed to quiet on the set for a reason, Drew. 3, 2.
All right, go ahead.
I can't get it off because you keep talking after I say quiet on the set. Anyway, we're back. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. This is live. So, I mean, these kind of things happen. You won't see this when you watch the edited version or listen to the edited version of this on the BCSN Pod Zone. We'll just cut this out. That little 30 seconds there, you won't even hear it. So if you're watching live, you got a chance to hear us do that. I want to encourage you to make sure that you download the BCSN Pod Zone whenever we have our shows available, everywhere that you listen to podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, which you can watch the shows on Spotify too, just in case you didn't know that. Some of the shows we do put our video versions up there on Spotify. But Google, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, everywhere you listen, iHeartRadio, and hey, more importantly, if you're listening to our shows on iHeart and Apple, do us a favor, rate the show on those platforms. You know, even on Spotify, rate the show. It all helps our algorithm. It all helps us continue to promote the show, all of our shows, because the Pod Zone is an aggregate of all of the shows that appear on the BCSN, from Dr. Cavill's Inside, HBCU Sports Lab, the Carlos Brown Show. If you missed Saturday's episode, his show Saturday, it is available now on the Pod Zone. You can watch the video on YouTube or Spotify. Our show, you can watch the O&G Strike Zone. And, you know, whenever we get the pregame show, whenever they have shows, that'll appear there. So a host of shows throughout the week to keep you going and keep you up to date on what's happening in Black college sports. I wanted to read a tweet from the Black College Football Hall of Fame, which reminds us that 4 HBCU players were drafted in the 2022 NFL Draft. That's 4x, 4 times the last 2 years combined, and matches the best results over the last 11 years. Those were 2011, 2015, 2017, and 2019. And they use a quote here from the great Coach Eddie Robinson, which reads, quote, "It's all about getting the best candidate possible, no matter what color, what race, what ethnicity. They just need an opportunity." And so, of course, through functions like the HBCU Legacy Bowl, we're hopeful that this 4, after the last 2 years, produces more next year and produces more the following year. So there are a host of guys who got some undrafted deals. We'll go through those as well. But we mentioned we talk about a little bit of the baseball, some of the baseball news of the day, big weekend series around the various conferences. Drew, there was a couple of news and notes that I know related to baseball that you wanted to share. Do you have those ready to share, or do you want me to pull that information on my own while you figure out and do whatever it is you're doing there? I have it. I have some information available.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I know you wanted to bring up the young man from Benedict College, Brandon O'Connor, who broke the NCAA Division II national stolen base record. I know that was one of the stories we talked about offline that you wanted to mention. Brandon is an outfielder for Benedict College, and he broke the record which was held by Cisco Johnson. I love that name, by the way. Cisco Johnson, who played at St. Leo University, which St. Leo is down here in my neck of the woods. He recorded 96 steals in 49 games back in 1987. Well, Brandon, he stole on the last day of the season, this past Saturday, matter of fact, he stole base number 97 in 43 games. So again, 97 stolen bases in 43 games. You do the math on that. That's over 2 a game. For those of you who maybe weren't math majors, that's over 2 a game. Reading a quote here from out of this article from our good friend Michael Coker at HBCU BlackCollege9s.com. No player in Division II history has put up the stolen base numbers that O'Connor has achieved. O'Connor said, "I never thought this day would come, so it's a pretty awesome feeling. The greater danger for most of us is setting our aim too high and falling short, or setting our aim too low and not achieving our goal. Did you ever think the day would come?" O'Connor stated. "I did. No, I didn't. When I tied the record after stealing second, it was bound to happen as I set my sight on third base." And it was third base that he stole in that last game to set that record. I don't even know how many times he's been caught. Oh, he's only been caught 8 times.
8.
So he's 97 bases in 105 attempts. He has a batting hit. Now, you got to imagine that in order to be able to steal that kind of numbers, you got to get on base. He's got a batting average of .454. He scored 54 runs, 10 doubles, 3 triples, 1 home run, 51 RBIs on the year. He's only struck out 10 times. I got to imagine, Drew, this is a young man who you got to find a way to get a guy like this on the field. I don't know. I'm sure there's a major league scout out there somewhere that if he's done his work, he's gone and seen Brandon, who'll be graduating from Benedict College. He's a senior, and I think Brandon might get a shot somewhere to show what speed he has at the major league level. But congratulations to Brandon O'Connor, Benedict College, for what he accomplished. Any other stories or individual news and notes you wanted to run through, Drew?
Well, I wanted to go on this a little bit more. He finished the season with 97, including 8 in one game, Brian. He stole 8 bases in one game. God. So, that was probably a 4 for 4 or 4 for 5 day for him at the plate, or, a 3 for 4 with a walk or something along those lines. And but also what I find interesting in this, Brian, do you realize that somebody on his team who also stole 60 bases this year, Brian?
No, really?
2 players, 157 steals. Between 2 players, wow. Brian. 157 steals. So Benedict as a team had 5 players with double-digit steals. So let you know That lets you know what kind of player he is. 152 plate appearances. Excuse me, at bats. He had 152 at bats, did Brandon O'Connor. So, yeah, I think someone is going to give him an opportunity to get into an extended spring training or continue to play at a lower professional league, and then ultimately he may be able to make it to the big show with speed like that.
Yeah.
So
that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. From on the diamond as well, got to give a shout out to, we mentioned some coaches that put up some big numbers last week in our show last week. Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention this week or on this show that Lauren Watton, the head coach of Bethune-Cookman's softball program for the past 15 seasons, she's been the head coach there. She won her 750th overall victory. Coming into the season, she had won 448 at Bethune and 728 overall. So, I mean, yeah, granted, she wasn't that far away from getting 750 overall, but the team, Bethune, ended up getting win number 750 for her after they defeated Jackson State this weekend. And so that was a big win for Bethune. We'll get into talking about the women's softball standings coming up a little bit later towards the end of the show. But had to make sure we get that mentioned in. Any other news and notes, Drew, individually before we make mention? Oh, yeah, hold on. There's one. I'll let you go. I'll let you go before I jump in there. Go ahead.
Well, I want to stick with baseball right now. You know, there was a combined no-no this week against a, for lack of, no, they would not be considered a future Power 5 team, as Memphis will be going to the Big 12, I do believe.
Memphis is going to the
Or
Big
they
12.
staying in the AC. No, they're staying in the AC. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Arkansas Pine Bluff, with only 6 wins on the season and a tie, had 4 pitchers combined for a no-hitter against the Memphis Tigers this week. This occurred on Wednesday, I do believe. And I lost the article that fast. Yeah, 4 pitchers combined for a victory over Memphis. Excuse me, that was not a no-hit. That was a shutout. That was a shutout win over Memphis. Sophomore Andrew Duran, junior Brandon Little. Andrew Duran started it out. Brandon Little closed it out for UAPB. But for UAPB with a disappointing season. Yeah, this was a no-hit shutout. I do have that correct. It was a no-hit shutout. For UAB to have only 6 wins, get that no-hitter against a Memphis team. Now, Memphis is a 500 team. It's not like they're playing at Alabama or Florida, but even still, this was a monumental victory for UAPB and the SWAC in general. I wonder if this may help the perception of SWAC baseball and help conference rating a little bit by seeing things like this. UAB took the lead 2-0 in the top half of the third and never lost that advantage. The Golden Lions out-hit the Tigers 7-0. UAPB pitchers limited Memphis to 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position in this game. So, that was another great baseball story this week, Brian.
And one final bit of news I think we can get to before we get into the Black College World Series, the 8 teams that are going to be a part of that. Florida A&M's Ethan Jenkins In game number 1 of the 3-game series against Mississippi Valley State, the Rattlers are out in Itta, Mississippi. He hit 4 home runs in, I believe, 4 plate appearances against Valley. 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, as he had a solo home run in the second, then came back in the 4th inning with another solo homer. That one, the first solo homer brought the game up to a 2-1. Rattlers were trailing 2-0 to start the game and cut the deficit in half. His solo homer in the 4th tied the game at 5. And then he had two other home runs. I read the full report. Unfortunately, I got to go to the box score because I thought it was in this article that I was reading here earlier. And you know, the bad part is I read the article and I'm thinking, okay, he hit one in his other plate appearances in which he had in the 6th inning. He homered in the 6th inning, and then he homered again in the 7th inning. So that was 4. Let me make sure he had 4 plate appearances. Yeah. His stat line: 4 at-bats, 4 runs, 4 hits, 6 RBIs. That's a total of, for those of you who like to do this kind of thing, that's a total of 16 total bases in that contest. And then, of course, FAMU won that ball game by a score of 16-5. Then in game 2, the next game, in his first at-bat, he hit another homer. So that made 5 consecutive plate appearances in which he got a home run. Now, I think I was reading somewhere that the NCAA record was 6 plate appearances, as Jenkins, who hits towards the bottom of the order, he had another solo homer in the 2nd inning. And, so the Rattlers went on to sweep Mississippi Valley State this weekend, got back on their winning ways. But, you know, got to give a shout out there to Ethan Jenkins for
Do you
what
have
he did. And
the box score for the second game, Bryan?
I do have the box score for the second game. What are you curious about? What he did?
I just wonder if he was walked in that second game, because after he would have hit 4 in the first game and hit 1 in his first appearance in the second game, I'm giving him the 4 fingers every time he comes to the plate from now on for the rest of this day, because he is hot.
Yeah, well, it's funny you asked that. He actually did walk twice. He had 3 at bats, and this was he did strike out 1. So he had 3, walked twice, struck out once, had 2 hits though. So outside of the homer, he was actually 2 of 3 in terms of official at bats, driving in 1. And so now I'm just going to take a quick peek here. If the box score from today is updated, which it should be, I'll take a peek and see, did he actually play? Because that one, FAMU won 11-6, and Jenkins actually returned back to, I won't say returned back to normal, but he did walk 2 more times, struck out once. He was 0 for 3, so didn't kind of carry it on forward into game 3. But I gotta imagine
did not get a pitch to hit, probably.
Yeah, no, you got to imagine that he didn't get anything really good to hit. But I got to imagine he'll be up for SWAC Player of the Week or SWAC Hitter of the Week for sure, no doubt. I think when you have the kind of run he had, I don't think that's been done. We'll have to check with some of our stat geeks out there to see when's the last time that's been done in the SWAC. But again, I know in the NCAA, that number was out there. So, all right. So still a lot of chatter going on in the chat rooms and Facebook, of course, regarding the HBCU draft. And we're going to come back and talk more about that here at the top of the second hour with Brandon BJ Jones. So you guys hang in there. But we want to make mention of the 2022 Tyson Foods Black College World Series, which will be in Montgomery, Alabama, May 11th through the 14th, featuring a field of 8 teams, 4 Division II teams, 4 NAIA teams, and they will play sort of in separate pods, 2 4-team brackets, double elimination, and then once you win that bracket, you advance to the World Series game, which is a single elimination contest. And so, Drew, the announcement, of course, of the teams was made on Wednesday. Since Wednesday, there's been a slight tweak to that. So let's start there with the teams who actually were named. So from the NAIA, the teams that were selected, and this is a selection process, Drew. I know we have a poll, Black College 9 has a poll, but just to clarify for people, there is a selection committee that makes this decision, yes? And how many people are on that selection committee?
There were 5 independent people on the selection committee. Now, all these people have some ties to either HBCUs or to the sport of baseball and currently follow HBCU baseball. And what I mean ties to HBCUs, these are HBCU alum or baseball alums who may have played at a non-HBCU but still followed HBCU baseball. So that's kind of how the committee was put together. They had numbers such as the Black College 9 poll, the numbers that go into our algorithm here at the BCSN SportsWrap, plus they did their own research also to to put the numbers together. And on the NCAA side, 2 teams were essentially a lock to be in, that being Savannah State and Albany State. On the NAIA side, you had Florida Memorial there was no lock. You had some good probables. Florida Memorial was one of those good probables. Edward Waters, who was dead midway through March, got on a tremendous run and played their way into the Black College World Series. And then after that, it was, they had to seriously crunch numbers and figure out who was the best of those remaining. On the NCAA side, you had Miles, who has been the streakiest of streaky teams. They've won double-digit games at one point in time in this season. I believe they won like 13 or 15 in a row at one point in time. But then they turned around and lost like 7 in a row. So Miles was their streaky team, but they wound up being in. And then they got down to the point of splitting hairs between a couple of teams, Bluefield State and Kentucky State. Well, Bluefield State got the bid on the NCAA side, and we'll come back to the NCAA side in just a moment. On the NAIA side, your 4 teams that are in are Russ College, Florida Memorial, Edward Waters, which is interesting because Edward Waters is transitioning to a Division II team, will be playing in the SIAC next year, but they are still classified as an NAIA program, playing half their schedule NAIA this year, so they qualified as an NAIA. Interesting fact, I think Edward Waters may have qualified if they were on the NCAA side, though. Just looking at some of the stuff that the committee was looking at, had they been a D2 team. And Talladega was the 4th team. Xavier was left outside looking in, the defending runner-up from a year ago. But Xavier has been determined to be the alternate should one of the NAIA teams not be able to make it due to, I hate to say it, due to COVID or due to another obligation.
What's that?
There. So, what's that?
No, nothing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You said some.
Okay.
You said some word that started with a C, and I was like, "What's that?" I'm sorry.
There must be the delay between the Bluetooth and the internet, because that's why I was so off kilter when you said that.
Yes,
But
obviously.
anyway, so that's what we're looking at on it. Now, these teams have not been seeded. These teams will be seeded as of the Wednesday Road to Montgomery show. Now let's flip over
Right.
to the
Hold
NCAA.
on.
Go ahead.
Stop. You're taking my. Hold
Stay
on.
on
Stop.
NAIA.
Stop. You have your road to Montgomery. I'm supposed to be setting you up, and you're running off with the. I'm just gonna go get me a drink of water and let you keep talking. But
I'm sorry.
I wanted to. That's all right. No, I was just trying to set you up to make you sound greater than you already are. So we've got the NAIA team, Florida Memorial, who is and now the Black College Nines has a small school division poll, top 10 poll. Edward Waters, Florida Memorial is actually number 6. Let me start from the top. Rust is actually number 5 on that poll. Florida Memorial is number 6 on that poll. Edward Waters is 7. And let me see. Talladega is not in that poll. So what I don't see though is the number 4 team, Payne College. In your opinion, what do you think kept Payne College from being one of these teams selected?
Obligations. Payne was in. Payne as a NCCAA team, because there's a deadline for them to declare that they are not going to the NCCAA tournament, because Payne did not meet that deadline and submit their desire to go to the Black College World Series. Instead, they are obligated to participate in the NCCAA tournament. Yes, Payne should have been in, but because of that obligation, Payne was not afforded the opportunity to come to the Tyson Foods Black College World Series.
And you said Xavier is the alternate here on this level. Real quick,
Correct.
is for any of these teams, obviously all of these teams play in different conferences. If they should they win their conference tournament, what might that mean for them playing should they win their conference tournament?
They will have to make it. They will have to make a decision. All of them have said that they will participate not only in their conference tournament, but the Tyson Foods Black College World Series, and then go on to the NAIA tournament. But should a power that be says no, we don't want you to do that, that's why there's an alternate on deck.
When you say power that be, are you referring to, as freely as you can? I know obviously conflicts of interest apply, but I have to
maybe the conference office may say, or the NAIA themselves may say no. So that's why I say the powers that be. And when I get to the NCAA side, that will make more sense to what I just said.
That won't be known until when?
Most conference tournaments in either this upcoming Saturday or Sunday, depending on the conference.
Okay. And real quick, on the NCAA side, obviously the number 1 team is Savannah State. Albany State is the number 2.
Are you talking about?
Hold on. What I'm saying is I'm referring to Black College Nines top 10 poll.
Okay.
And then the 8 teams selected on Wednesday. The 8 teams that were selected, anyone who watched Road to Montgomery, you had Savannah State, who's the number 1 team in that Black College Nines poll. You have Albany State, who's number 2. You have Miles College, who's number 3. And then you have Bluefield State, the defending champs, number 10. Very quickly, Drew, because we got to go to a break and go to our last segment, but Savannah State will not be participating in the Black College World Series. Their alternate, Kentucky State, who is ranked number 9, will take their place. As best as you can, tell us what happened there with that.
Savannah State, don't know the full story about it, but I think it had a lot to do with Savannah State is not only in a good position to win the SIAC tournament, but also to, even if they do not win the SIAC tournament, to receive an at-large. Now, when you look at the SIAC conference, Spring Hill, who's not an HBCU but competes in the SIAC, is probably in a better position to receive an at-large out of the SIAC than if the roles were reversed. But Savannah State, I think, playing it safe, decided that they would. And I'm going on pure speculation right here. But Savannah State has decided to opt out and kind of push all their chips into the SIAC tournament. So, and there's a second caveat when it comes to the SIAC, which is why we had to create the alternate scenario to start with. SIAC, and there's been some back and forth, but the SIAC office has determined that the SIAC champion will not be allowed to participate in the Tyson Foods Black College World Series because it may be considered a second postseason event. The NCAA only allows you one postseason event beyond your conference tournament. So because of that, safety being the caution, safety being the forerunner here, the SIAC champion, should it be one of the teams that are selected in the field, that being Albany State, Kentucky State, or Miles, will not participate in the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. And thus, since our original alternate, Kentucky State, replaced Savannah State after they opted out, Tuskegee now becomes the alternate for the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. I hope I explained that as best as I could.
Tuskegee, woo, woo. All right. Hey, look, there are layers to this thing, man. Props to
there are
all
many
of you
layers.
guys. Yeah, props to Black College Championships on being able to work this out. And thank you to all the schools. You are in store for a big-time event. And so while we wish everybody luck in their conference tournaments, the postseason will be sweet. I guarantee it, because the people who are working to put it together have done a great job and are doing a great job, you included, AD. Let's go to a break because Brandon BJ Jones is on the other side. We got some football, HBCU, NFL draft-related stuff to talk about on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
The Black College Law School's Baseball Championship will be crowned at the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. Albany State University, Bluefield State College, Edward Waters University, Florida Boyd University, Kentucky State University, Miles College, Russ College, and Talladega College will battle it out at Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium from May 11th through 14th for Black College Baseball's ultimate prize. Tickets are on sale now at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
Five-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Okay, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew here, joining us, as you can see. Good friend of the show from inside HBCU football. That's Brandon BJ Jones. BJ, how you doing, my man?
Man, doing good, man. How y'all fellas doing?
Doing well, my brother. Real good. You guys out there watching us, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button there in the chat room on YouTube and Facebook. Now's the time to start getting your questions, any thoughts you might have. A lot to break down here with BJ.
Before you go into that, Brian, next time y'all two send a memo back and forth to each other to wear powder blue, please include me on the email chain.
It's Columbia.
Gotcha.
Columbia blue. I'm sorry. Next time, please include me on the email chain.
That's that Southern blue. That's what they call it. That Columbia blue, official.
801 Hardin Boulevard.
Look at that. See. Hey. So obviously, lots to break down for the draft. Let me start with this, BJ. Just your overall thoughts on the draft from the HBCU player perspective. Was it what you thought? Disappointed, pleased, optimistic? What are your thoughts?
That's about what I thought. I thought about 4 to 5 kids would get drafted, to get that opportunity. It was it was about what I thought. I think that a lot of people's I think a lot of people had a kind of inflated sense of what may happen. Not realizing, man, that the NFL draft, man, we're talking about a small percentage of draft eligible players who actually get their names called. And when we're talking about the National Football League, we're talking about the best football players in the world. All right, in the world, and only half of a percentage make it to that level, and that's something I want our fans to understand. It's an uphill climb, no matter how talented you are. Coming from a bigger school, a Power 5 school, you saw Power 5s didn't have anybody drafted yesterday. So it's about what I expected, about what I expected.
Yeah, it really is. It hit me when I thought about the numbers when I went and I looked back at Emory Hunt's scouting book, which he had 1,000 names in that book. 262 players got drafted. That means there are 700 something players, right, that were draft eligible that didn't get drafted. And probably I'm just guesstimating, maybe only a couple hundreds of those, maybe 300, might find themselves on a team in somebody's rookie mini camp. So there's probably another 400 guys who won't even make it to that level. And so, I guess the conversation where all that comes from is, I was actually, as I was watching some USFL football the other day, I was encouraged by the fact that, you know what, yes, we have enough players in the marketplace for 2 professional football leagues. I don't want to go talking about that, but I feel like you folks can be encouraged that you may see these guys playing professional. It just may not be on an NFL team. And here's a tweet I want to read for you guys from Brian Juice Jenkins Jr. I don't know if you guys saw this. I thought this summed it up real well. And then, AD, I'll give it over to you. He tweeted out, just goes to show you, you have to be elite. You have to be special. Sometimes what you think is good enough ain't good enough. You got to do more. 100. I thought that summed it up quite well when you think about the draft. Go ahead, AD.
You know, when you think about it, Brian, now the NFL is no different than any other professional league. You know, NBA, there's only so many players that get drafted. Those who don't get drafted, they go to the G League, they go overseas. MLB, you've got your different layers of minor league baseball. That's what the USFL and the upcoming XFL, along with Canada, seems to be for these college teams or these players who run out of college eligibility, because there are other opportunities to continue to play this, and not as paid as much. But if you want to do it for paid, there are opportunities out there. Would you not concur with that, BJ?
I mean, I took one of those opportunities. I had to go to Vancouver, British Columbia. Went there for a couple of years, and made a decent amount of money. But hey, I was able to extend the football career for a few years. Was it life changing money? The opportunities that I could have had. Had I made a roster in the National Football League, no. But it gave me an opportunity to scratch that itch and get an opportunity. To continue my athletic career. And and then, the biggest thing is what I tell people, man. This is a challenging time for young men. Nobody, no matter how you say, is prepared for their football careers to come to an end. Nobody. It's one of those things that, man, you feel like it's going to be different because it always has been different. You knew after Pop won the ball, I'm gonna play in junior high. You knew after junior high, I'm gonna play at high school. You knew after high school, I'm gonna play at the collegiate level. You just feel like, hey, it's just the next level. I've always been told that it's a challenge to get to the next level and then to do this. Well, this is the next level, and when that does not happen, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was depressed for a while. After that is a realistic feeling. Is gut wrenching. It's a tough pill to swallow, and it's not as easy as people think that it is. Even though that the odds are against you, the odds have been against you since you started playing. You've overcame them this many times, and my heart goes out to those young men because now a lot of guys really have to start thinking about life after football, and that's a scary proposition.
Even if you would have had a successful career, I mean, after 30, you still gonna have to deal with it. You just kicking the can down the road, good,
Yeah.
bad, or ugly. So when it comes to it, now BJ, 4 were drafted, others are signed. Here's the question: for those that were drafted, getting drafted, that's only step one. Will all 4 of these make the team? Answer that for me. Make the team that they
I
were
think all
drafted
4.
by.
I don't know about the team they were drafted by, but I think all 4 of them will stick in the league. I think that Jatari Carter from Southern University is special. You watch him, and he's being asked now to step inside, play the guard position where he's tackle. He's athletic enough to make that, strong enough to make that move. I think that the corners that were drafted yesterday, Joshua Williams is special, and I've been screaming his name since last summer. Everybody was talking about who's the best corner in HBCU football. Is it Jacoby Durant? Is it a young man from Jackson State? And I kept telling people, man, there's this guy at Fayetteville State named Joshua Williams. They got something that you can't buy. 6'3", over 200 pounds, playing corner, and can run sub 4.4. You can't coach that. You either got it or you don't. And he has something. 6'3" corners are hard to find. He has that. He's going to get a leg up. Jacoby Durant just has a knack of just making plays. No matter where he is, who he's playing against, he just has a knack for making plays that he's going to, be okay. And then James Houston, a lot of people are counting down on James Houston's size, but you see the plays that he's able to make when he's able to come off the edge. He's going to be asked to probably play in coverage a little bit more at the next level. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker, not really a true defensive end. So I think there's going to be some challenges there for him, but I think he has the athleticism to make up for it, to be able to make that transition.
Now, I might add that I think the most disappointing one for me that who was not drafted was Marquise Bell out of Florida A&M. In your opinion, why do you think Marquise did not get his name called?
Marquise Bell 2019 was better than Marquise Bell 2021. 2019, he just completely jumped off the screen. I mean, I watched him play a couple of times, man, where he made that FAMU secondary in 2019 was not good. Let's be honest. It wasn't like that. Having him as the umbrella, it changed everything. Marquise Bell didn't have the 2021 that we expected for him to have. Not until Southeastern Louisiana. Now, he had a well of a game, but he regressed in 2021. We're being honest. And when scouts look at you and you're not one of those guys like surefire, like a Darryl Stingley, he regressed. His 2020 didn't look like 2019. His 2020, COVID year or not, he was reading a lot of the back of a lot of jerseys. But he had already been pegged as an elite guy. When you're considered a marginal guy, your best has to be your latest. And for Marquise Bell, his latest wasn't his best. His best was 2019.
Do you think that was because of the additions of other guys around him, where they had a Lovey Jenkins, they had a Antoine Collier? You know, he wasn't being asked to do maybe so many things, or he didn't have to do as many things. Do you think that was why, or maybe it was something else?
And also, it came a lot when he was in the zone. He got lost a lot. When he was supposed to be that man over the top, he got lost a lot. Well, he wasn't that umbrella that he was in 2019, and he struggled coming down and covering the slot, things that he didn't struggle with that in 2019. I'm not sure about his playing weight. I know he seemed more slim in 2021 compared to 2019. Not sure what about his training methods changed up. But he didn't look like Marquise Bell that we all expected him to look into that Southeastern game. And unfortunately, he showed up. A bunch of other people did, but he did.
Some of the other people got lost on our 10.
Good point. Yeah, real good point. Real good point. Some of the undrafted names here. One more question regarding the guys who got drafted, and because I know that was a point of emphasis that got caught up on the TV. You know, obviously Houston previously played at Florida for 4 years, and Jacoby was spotlighted for his performance against Clemson. I don't know much about Carter's background. You obviously know more about Jatari Carter than us. Was there a significant game that jumped off, or just you called him special? I mean, was there some, or is just his nature of how he played all year that sort of jumped off the page for Carter?
He played the same way against everybody. He's a athletic, nasty offensive lineman, and he tries to bury people. And it doesn't matter if it was Troy, it didn't matter if it was Mississippi Valley, it didn't matter if it was TCU. He played the same exact way. And if you lined up across from him, you got the same exact treatment. Yeah, he made the young man, that was 2019 Memphis. The kid that played across from him for Memphis, he just embarrassed. And he did it again in Troy. Southern didn't have a good game at Troy. Tyra Carter did.
Yeah. And see, there you go. Remember, like Drew, remember we were talking about earlier, trying to think about, so you mentioned 2 games against Memphis and Troy. So it's like it almost feels like there's this sense that when you perform well against those upper level teams, or what the perception is of upper level from your own division, and then when you do it consistently, that's what sticks. It seems like that is the roadmap, unless obviously you're a Joshua Williams, and as you said, you just have something that you can't really coach. So that seems to be the formula. As we go through the list of undrafted free agents, jump in with any thoughts that you might have on any of these guys. Obviously, Bell signs with the Cowboys. Jaquez Ezzard, who we saw tear up the league, the MEAC with Howard, and then he went off and won a title with who is it? Sam Houston. He got a deal with he got a deal with the Commanders. Savion Williams got picked up by the Jets. I thought of all the FAMU people, I thought Jay Jackson Williams might get a shot. Not to say Savion wouldn't, but that was interesting to see Savion get picked up or get a deal with the Jets. Felix Harper getting an opportunity with the Browns. I'm not gonna lie, that was a bit shocking for me, and I don't know, maybe it's a size thing, but then again, there's an organization that had Baker Mayfield in, so you sort of had smaller quarterbacks, and I don't know, maybe that was just one of those things. Ron Hunt, wide receiver from A&T, got an opportunity with the Jets. CJ Holmes, Jackson State has an opportunity with the Saints. Will Adams is a name who I heard a lot of buzz about. He's a Virginia State DB with the Falcons. Let's see. Defensive lineman Deshaun Dixon from Norfolk State, opportunity with the Jaguars. Shamar Bridges of Fort Valley State, wide receiver, got an opportunity with the Ravens. Caleb Carter, linebacker from Southern, going to my Colts. What can I expect there? I got to ask about that since he's going to the Colts. What can I expect from? What can we expect from Caleb Carter?
Gets to the ball, has a nose for the football, athletic enough to run sideline from sideline, athletic enough to play in coverage. If there was a knock on him, is that he doesn't always play to his ability. But when he does, he's special. So he has to get that motor to stay on all the time, because he can give you a 10, but he might go a few games where he may give you a 6.5 or a 7.
Of course, we have Glass. Aquil went to gets an opportunity with the Bucks, and then Jermaine Martin going also to my Colts. I've tried to tell people that Martin is if folks remember Vic Ballard, who came out of Mississippi State, I believe. I've tried to compare Martin to Vic Ballard, who I loved Vic Ballard, obviously. So I don't know if you've heard of any other names outside of that list, but any impressions or any names in that list, and I'm getting this list from HBCU Game Day. I want to make sure to give Steve some credit for pulling that list, and there might be new names as well. But any names that pop off, and what do you think those guys' success opportunities will be?
Man, Dixon from Norfolk State, I think is going to have a legitimate shot. Has the size. I'm not sure what he ran as far as the 40, which is really overrated, by the way, for a defensive lineman. Well, I need to be looking at your cone drills and see him there. I think he has a legitimate shot. I think Bell has a legitimate shot because Marquise Bell, he's on is special. And with that size, he got something else that you can't coach. You can't coach. Can't coach 6'3". He's 6'3", you're not. He is. So I think that he has an opportunity. D. Anderson, receiver from Alabama A&M. That young man is special as well. I think that he's going to have a good opportunity, and it's going to be interesting to see the young man from Virginia State, who I heard a lot of buzz about. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with this opportunity, because from all accounts and the film I went back and watched on him, he can ball. Like, he may have been hurt by going to being at Virginia State, but he can ball. So I wish all these young men the best of luck. Of course, Aquil Glass, the one that we've been talking about for a while. It's going to be interesting to see, what the Cards has in store for him. Because I talked to a scout, and I told me and Reggie Flood talked about this. Aquil Glass looked great in the East-West Shrine game. Tore that game up. He didn't look as polished and as well in the HBCU Legacy Bowl.
I agree.
And it goes back to your last has to be your best, and that Legacy Bowl, and unfortunately, it wasn't his best. And I think that may have made a lot of doubts about him seep into the minds of a lot of scouts and a lot of teams.
It's almost like if he wouldn't have played in that game, it was almost like you had kind of, and there was probably a sense of obligation that he felt like he had to play in that game. But if you almost wish after what he did in the East West Shrine and even the what was the other bowl? The NFLPA bowl
Yep.
was so he had two good bowls, and then he did the Legacy Bowl, and it was like the Legacy Bowl was the least impressive of the three, but it was the last one, and like you said, that last one sticks out. Yeah, that's disappointing. A few other names I did refresh on the screen here. A few other names that have been added to this list. Jawan Taylor of Alcorn gets an opportunity with the Jets. Now, is he the young man who was supposed to be? I read something. There's a guy from Alcorn who's supposed to be like the fastest guy in the SWAC. Is that him, Taylor?
Oh no, that's another guy. They actually ran track at Alcorn as well. Might have been Taylor. Taylor was the defensive player of the game of that 2019 SWAC championship game. He can ball too.
Zafir Kelly of South Carolina State gets an opportunity with the Packers. Marquise McLean of Southern gets an opportunity with the Jets. And Al Young of Jackson State. Now he's I saw his name earlier. I saw the tweet. I can't visualize the school. But yeah, that's another opportunity. So educate people, BJ, on what happens at this stage. These guys are going to go into mini camp. What happens from that point? Educate people who don't know how this process usually works after this draft and going into mini camps.
Okay, so you have two sets of guys. You have guys who sign undrafted free agent contracts. You have guys who are minicamp invites. All right, those undrafted free agents will actually make a little money, not a lot. But those are players that teams basically said, "Hey, if we had another pick or two, you'd be a shoe-in. You on our board. You're one of the guys that we really want to look at. We like." Minicap invites is basically I'm inviting you to try out. We're going to bring you in for this mini camp. We'll evaluate you, and we'll let you know. We'll bring you back for additional camps when we have our fall camp. We'll let you know if we'll bring you back, at that time. So your undrafted free agents, those guys are a priority for those teams. Minicamp invites, basically inviting you to try out so you can try out.
Is it usually a one-day thing or is it a weekend thing? What they get to come
It's
in?
It's usually a Friday, Saturday deal or a Saturday, Sunday deal. It's usually a 2-day deal.
Okay. So you get a real job interview. So it's like you can't have any missteps. You come in,
Nope.
It's like everything's got to be polished, clean. One misstep, and it might cost you, basically, right?
Might cost you because you got to think, man, those teams have those undrafted free agents that they already, have. And, at that mini camp, it's a bunch of guys coming out to that mini camp. They're only looking to bring probably maybe additional, I don't know, 5-6 guys from that rookie camp. From everyone they bring into their camp. So, yeah, man, it's you'll be scrutinized, and your margin for error is small.
Now, let me ask you this, BJ. With the obviously the off-season training rules have changed over the last couple of years, even since you tried to get into the league a few years ago, and now with the reduction in the preseason games and the fall, the regular training camp. How much of an uphill battle will it be for these guys to get in there to get looks? Because let's be realistic. You may only get 3-4 reps in a whole day on the field. I'm just being realistic about it. So.
It's hard, man, because when you take away those preseason games, man, that people always say, "Hey, man, the unintended consequences is that you will hurt a lot of those guys that are trying to make the roster and show what they can do." And when you don't have much activity in camp anymore, all that stuff has been cut. That hurts those guys that's trying to make a roster. It hurts the guys who got it made, they they know where they stand. It doesn't hurt them. It helps them. Hey, let's stuff that I have to do. More time I can spend around the family. Don't have to do some of this stuff. But when you're literally job interviewing, you want as many opportunities as you can get. If I can get 6 reps instead of 2, those additional 4 make a difference because all it takes is 1 rep to turn a head. It's definitely more difficult now.
And one last thing, what about the fact that, let's be real, you've probably been a starter your entire life. You've been a one your entire life. You're going to the NFL. Number one, you may be asked to play a different position. You may be asked to play special teams, and you probably may have never even played special teams in high school or in college because you were always with the ones or the twos or something like that. So, what about that transition and being asked to play a different position, or even like we see some of them, you can play quarterback. Now we invite you to camp. But we invite you to camp as a receiver, not as a quarterback where you played your entire life. What about some of those challenges that these players would have to ascertain?
It's difficult. It's not only difficult because you're asking me to do something different. It's difficult mentally because you think, man, I thought I was good. Man, I thought I was good. Apparently that I'm not. It's a lot of guys get caught up not just because of the physical, it's the mental. For the first time in my life, I'm not the man. I've never had to do that. I've been playing this game since I was 5, 6 years old. I'm 22 now. I've been the man the whole time. And to get into a place where you feel like, man, this is different. And when you get there and you see guys, real professionals do it, the first time you see it is humbling. Because the first time you see it, you realize, you see the game, you know what it is, but it looks completely different. And I don't care who you are, if you're a first round draft pick, the first pick, there's an adjustment period for you to get up to that speed and to get up to that quality. And you have to deal with that, and I have to learn a new position. And I have to learn this new terminology. I have to throw out all the stuff that I've learned the last 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
Playbook 3-4 times as thick as you've ever seen before.
Right. Playbooks looks like a thesaurus, and you're expected to know all of these things. You got to know all of them, and it's your job, and that's what coaches will say. It's your job. I want you to treat it like that.
David, gotta give a shout out to David Garner on YouTube. Belon Richardson is the Alabama State track star that got the invite with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I believe he was also a wide receiver with Alcorn, but I guess primarily track was his sport. And I guess if you're able to run a 4.28, yeah, I might invite you out to camp. Let me see. Can you what can you do? I mean, look, like you said, you can't teach 4.28 if you're out there running that fast. What does that look like if the ball gets in your hands? And with who they have quarterbacking right now, and maybe who knows about the future, but that'll be interesting to see. The last thing, BJ, before we let you go, big news this morning: Isaiah Land, the reigning Buck Buchanan Award winner, SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, entered the transfer portal on the last day for any player that wanted to be eligible for the fall. Today, May 1, was the last day to enter the portal. Doesn't mean he's been contacted by any team. Doesn't mean he's leaving FAMU, but to put his name in the mix. I saw Noah Biden also did the same. Grambling quarterback, highly recruited guy. But for Land, do you think this? What are your thoughts on that? But I'm wondering, is that a product of what we saw yesterday or from this past weekend with the draft? What are your thoughts?
It could be. I think no one will know until we actually get a statement from the young man or he comes out. And this is why I tell people, man, you get one opportunity to do this. I mean, you get one shot to do this. Kids are going to do what they feel is going to put them in the best position to get that shot. Whether what the moves that they make benefits them, if it's real or imaginative. If I feel like it's going to benefit me, kids do it all the time. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Isaiah Land. Um, I thought that he'd do, pretty well at Florida A&M. Florida A&M wasn't the reason that kids didn't get drafted. When you get drafted, man, this is a very individual. What do you do on your skill set? How you've been developed? It's all on you. It's the logo on the helmet doesn't get you drafted. The logo may get you some extra eyes. The logo may do some other things, but at the end of the day, man, you got to play ball. Texas got all the money in the world. All right. And for the last 20 years, I looked it up before I came on with you guys. Texas has been in the top 10 in recruiting, 18 of them. Been in the top 10. They've been in the top 5 for 13 of those years. Had nobody drafted yesterday.
Wow.
It ain't about where you go. It's about what you do and the work that you put in. That's how Joshua Williams was drafted out of Fayetteville State. It's about the work that you put in.
Preach.
Well said. Well said. BJ will be doing. I saw the reminder. I think I had to save it on my phone. You're gonna be doing a Spaces, I believe, a Twitter Spaces. Are you doing it Monday night or Tuesday night?
Well, I'm doing one tonight. Tonight's really it's not sports related. But doing tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about the NFL draft, HBCUs, and so forth. And there's a lot of nonsense that's being floated out there, and it's honestly, it's just that. But just to really talk to help really people understand, we're going to have a few guys from the SWAC, guys that have gone through the process and know what it's like, know how difficult it is. It just kind of educate some people, and well, I've seen some ridiculous things online.
And I appreciate how you try to bring people home because, you and I are in the same places in cyberspace with some in these same chats and message boards. And I just be looking like BJ gonna chime in here soon and gonna get these people wake up. It's just like you just slap them over the head. Like, what are you thinking about?
What's tonight's topic about? You mentioned it. It's not necessarily sports related. What do you got on the agenda for tonight?
Where do we go from here? As far as like Black America, I think one of the things that really triggered me to do this is that, man, we've been seeing a lot of violence happen. We just saw someone lose their life at the fair at Jackson, Mississippi. We just saw here in Atlanta, an 11-year-old was shot in the back of the head at the skating rink, and the assailant was a 13-year-old. So just really, some of the things that we're seeing, violence in our community. Where do we go here as the Black community? And where is the responsibility where, say it takes a village? And kind of what happens when the village gets to a certain level and the village leaves. And you leave, that talented 10th leaves, and that talented 10th, keeps leaving, and then what do you have left? So just really talking about that, just kind of some changes that we can make, mentorship and so forth.
Nice. What time are you starting up?
I'll be 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern.
All right, so pretty much after we get done, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Make sure if you're not following BJ at Inside HBCU F-Ball is where you can get on Twitter, get on your phone apps. I'm not sure Twitter has made Spaces on the desktop or on the laptops, but if not,
can't even do it on the iPad.
Yeah, so you got to get on your phone, Twitter Spaces, get on your phone app. You can listen, great conversation. And I know, like I said, last week's show was epic. Many people were up dragging the next day. because of how great the conversations were. And I'm sure not only tonight, but tomorrow night will be similarly impressive conversations. I don't know if they'll go as long, but they'll be just as good. So I'll look forward to be tuning in tonight and tomorrow night. Thank you, BJ, for joining us. And we look forward to hearing you and the rest of your guests and great commentary over the next couple days. All right.
All right, man. Appreciate you guys having me, man, and keep up the good work, man. I love you guys' show, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you
brother.
much. Thank you much. Let's take a break,
All
come back, and close up the show. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No! 7 times the... Yes! Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
The Black College Law School's baseball championship will be crowned at the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. Albany State University, Bluefield State College, Edward Waters University, Florida Boyd University, Kentucky State University, Morehouse College, Rusk College, and Talladega College will battle it out at Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium from May 11th through 14th for Black College Baseball's ultimate prize. Tickets are on sale now at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Okay, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and AD. Special thanks again to Brandon BJ Jones. Make sure you're following him at Inside HBCU Foot F-Ball. And you check out those Twitter spaces again. One of the different mediums that you can find some good content on. I know last week they got into talking about what was the main thing? It was coming off of the TV rights, media rights, and things of that nature. That conversation went deep into the night. I think they may have started around 7 or 8, but that thing went about 3 hours. I know there were people dragging and complaining about how long, but it was good stuff. Good stuff. What'd you say, Drew?
Good thing they ain't have to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. No, few people did. So again, his Twitter Spaces, they'll be 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern, 7 Central tonight. Non-football topics, but tomorrow will be the football topic du jour. So 2 good nights of Twitter Spaces by BJ. All right, Drew, some random news and notes. Not random stories though. So what do we got?
Start off with North Carolina A&T track as the men's 4x100 meter relay team broke the beat record at the Drake Relays Friday to highlight an outstanding showing for the Aggies men and women's outdoor track team. The 4x1 team of senior Tavares Williams, junior Randolph Ross Jr., senior Daniel Stokes, and sophomore Javante Harding ran a beat record 38.84 in the third heat to qualify for the finals. A&T's 4x1 came into the beat ranked number 2 in the nation at 38.61. The University of Florida is ranked number 1 at 38.47. Ross also won the 400 with a time of 44.95, and his freshman teammate Raheem Hales placed 6th with a 47.75. DeShayla McDuffie won the women's 200 with a time of 23.44. So, and Corey Poole won the men's 400 hurdles with a 50.27. So A&T doing some big things in track. So you think that was good on Friday? Let's go to Saturday. Freshman Grace, and I am going to mispronounce his name, and it's not on purpose. Wakocha won the women's 100 at 11.98, and the men's 4x4 came in at 3:05.81. The women's 4x4 came in third with a 3:40.34. So those are some track notes that we have from North Carolina A&T as we look for them to make big noise and they start to gear up for the Nationals.
You could have blamed any type of mess up on your audio, Drew, because I couldn't tell whether the name was right or wrong because I think you went digitized at the moment when you said it. So anyway. But shout out to North Carolina A&T. While we're talking about track, we always love it when athletic departments tag at my BCSN1. And so when you have big events that happen or news you want to share via Twitter or Instagram, we encourage and want them tag us. I mean, a lot of times I see people tag other people, and that's great, but don't forget us, at my BCSN1. And one of our shows, we'll pick it up, we'll talk about it. And so thanks to Xavier University, and while we were talking about track, I got to make mention of the Xavier Gold Rush and the Xavier Gold Nuggets for their performances in the Red River Athletic Conference track championships. The men won their first conference team title since 2004, and the women have won their 5th consecutive conference team title and 8th in the last 9 years. Now, of course, that's over 2 conferences, as Xavier was formerly a part of the GCAC last year. So Xavier continues to roll. That on the heels of their women's, or not their women's, but just their cheer squad winning a national championship in NAIA, 1 or 2 weeks before. Xavier.
Competitive cheer.
Yeah, competitive cheer. I tell you,
and you can go to that interview on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab this Thursday to as we talk to Coach Caston, Dr. Cavill, and I on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
Yeah, they were recently recognized by the city of New Orleans. Of course, back on March 12th, they won Xavier's first ever NAIA national team championship
April
in
12th.
any sport. I didn't hear what you said. What?
That was April. That was April. You said March, but it was April 12th.
Oh, okay, yeah, April 12th. Well, I was reading a tweet. So the tweet said March, so I was reading the tweet. So, but okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, but congratulations to Xavier on that accomplishment. What else you got?
Legendary women's pioneer C. Vivian Stringer is retiring after 50 years and 1,055 wins as a head coach. Stringer, a Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Famer, guided her teams to Colin Bryan, 28 NCAA tournament appearances, and 4 Final Four berths across her storied career. And why is this a story on the BCSN SportsWrap? Because she began her career at Cheney State, in addition to coaching in Iowa and most recently Rutgers. So Vivian Stringer was the first men's or women's basketball coach to guide 3 different programs to the Final Four at Cheney State, where she coached from 71 to 83, to the first NCAA tournament championship game in 1982. The women's tournament did not begin until 1982, and she was there when they fell to Louisiana Tech in the finals. And then, of course, she had her career at Iowa and most recently at Rutgers. But we're just going to focus on the Cheney State portion of it. One last thing, 21 WNBA draft picks, Brian.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Before you, oh, you mean that's what she produced? 21 BA.
I lost you there. I got a little muffled for a second.
What were you saying? Was the WNBA story part of the Vivian Stringer story, or were you transitioning to something else?
Yes. No, she at 20. I just had the number 28.
Okay.
21 WNBA draft picks. She coached 21 WNBA draft picks.
All right. Your audio is horrible. But anyway, yeah, no, the 40-year anniversary, of course, of her leading Cheney to the women's national championship game is I forget where I saw. I was trying while you were talking about it, the tweets that was really, I mean, just on the eve of Dawn Staley winning that national championship for South Carolina, and 40 years after Vivian Stringer and leading that Cheney squad. There's some great historical stuff there. If you're interested in wanting to go back and read, or just maybe educate somebody younger, or maybe somebody who might have missed being a part of that, it's some good info that's out there.
I don't know if you heard 21 WNBA draft picks played for Vivian Stringer during her coaching career.
You said 21?
21.
All right. Okay. And September 1 is when she's actually stepping down. I was just looking at the tweet there. So. All right, let's do this. Let's get into the final part. Drew, do something with your audio in, because it's picking in a lot of feedback here, and I don't know if people can really hear what I'm saying. So I want to go through the top 5 here. Still getting a lot of echo in the digitization. So I don't know. Can you do something on your end? All right. Well, I'm gonna try to power people. Appreciate you there. There you go. That's a little bit better. Well, maybe it's not. Okay, we're gonna power through. Appreciate you guys hanging in there with us as we go through a few technical difficulties with our audio. Not our best work, but we work all the same. Baseball. Let me go back. Let me start with the softball ladies, right? Because this is the updated Division One softball ranking. We will be publishing the women's D2 and NAIA a little bit later. So the only one that I have live right now is the women's D1 top five. So the top five in softball for women. Drew, can you mute yourself? Mute yourself. I'm hearing a lot of echo, and I think that might be going out over the air. There we go. All right. So, and if it wasn't, I'm sorry. Okay, so top five in softball. We'll start number 5 with Norfolk State with a total record, win-loss record of 28-21, 16-5 in conference. Number 4 is Howard University, 24-20 with 17-4 conference record. Bethune-Cookman of the SWAC with comes in at number 3, 24-23 overall, 18-6 in the conference. Now, the top 2 are divided by just a point in our polls. Number 2 is Texas Southern. Texas Southern. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. Just got a text, and I'm like, shouldn't be reading text while I'm doing the show. Texas Southern, number 2, with a 22-17. When I tell you what this text is, you're going to say, whoa, too. 22-17 record, 21-3 in conference. Number 1 team in softball, Division I, is Morgan State by just a point over Texas Southern. They have an overall record of 27-13. Conference record of 18-3.
One note about Texas Southern, Brian.
Yes.
Texas Southern actually has 24 wins, but only 22 of those are on the Division I level.
Right, and it should be noted Bethune-Cookman of that top 5 has the toughest strength of schedule in softball in the top 5. Only Tennessee State and North Carolina A&T have a tougher ranking. Now, again, the Division II softball and NAIA softball, those will be updated and released later. Let's go to baseball. Top 5. These are the top 5. These are the latest. These are updated as of today, I believe. Correct, Drew?
Correct. It was about 3 o'clock today.
Of course, all 5 teams are part of the SWAC, including the teams the 2 nearest teams that are just on the outside of the top 5. Number 5 is Grambling State, overall 17-23, 14-6 in conference. Number 4, Bethune-Cookman with 19-23 overall record, 13-8 in conference play. What's interesting, Bethune-Cookman has no games played against any HBCUs from outside of the SWAC, I'm assuming. Is that what that is, Drew? Interesting.
Correct.
But they have the second toughest strength of schedule in the nation behind North Carolina A&T. Number 3, Florida A&M moves up to number 3 with a 20-23 record, 14-6 in conference. Rattlers got a sweep over Mississippi Valley State this past weekend. Number 2 is Prairie View A&M. Overall, 22-18, 17-4 in conference play. I believe that's leading the SWAC West. Leading the SWAC East is Alabama State. They are number 1 now, 23-17 overall, 15-3 in conference. Anything you want to add there before I move?
Well, just remind everybody once again on the Division I level, we We only count wins versus other Division Ones. So some of these records may be off from what you see on the website.
Now, Division II baseball. Now, number 5, the team coming in number 5.
Skip number 5. Skip number 5 is actually the number 6 on the sheet that you look at, the one right below the line. Number 5 is on the other matrix.
Okay, because I was going to say they should be part of the NAIA, what you're saying. Okay, so West Virginia State comes in at number 5 with a record of 21-17, 13-12 in conference. Number 4, Kentucky State. They be going to the Black College World Series, the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. 20-20 record, 15-11. Miles College comes in at third. 23-21 record, 19-10 in conference play. Albany State is in second with a 27-12 record, 24-5, and number 1 is Savannah State, 32 wins on the year, 27-2 conference record. Only a 1-3 record against HBCUs outside of the SIAC. And then over on the NAIA side, the top 5 starts with Payne College at number 5, total record of 18-14. Edward Waters, number 4, with an even 23-23 record. They will be participating in the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. So will number 3, Talladega, 18-25 overall, 8-16 in conference. But they are 6-0 against HBCUs outside of their conference, and they have the number 2 toughest baseball strength of schedule. Interesting. Number 2, Florida Memorial, another participant of the Tyson Foods Black College World Series, 23-20 record, 10-13 conference. Number 1 strength of schedule in HBCU baseball, and that's a product of that tough Sun Conference that they play in down there in South Florida. And then Rusk College, the Bearcats, come in number 1, 16. What is this point? What is this? A tie somewhere?
They have a tie. Yes, they have a tie.
16-13-1, 7-0 in conference, 8-5-1 against HBCU schools outside of their conference. All 4 of our top 4 teams appear to be playing in the BCWS, and that's it. Drew, any good show?
I would say one note about Talladega, also in a tough conference in that Southern States Conference. You mentioned them with the second toughest strength of schedule. The Southern State Conference probably rivals the Sun Conference as far as power within that conference.
Okay. Again, more clarification on our track athlete from Ballon Robinson. David Garner clarified for me, because I think I swear I saw a graphic that said Ballon Robinson played wide receiver at Alcorn, but he did not play football according to David Garner. But he said he can run and leave everybody. To which Karen Griffin says he gets a chance like Ronaldo Nehemiah did. Why do Karen? Shout out to Karen Griffin for the Ronaldo Nehemiah reference. That is the name reference of the day. Shout out to Karen Griffin for a recall. Question is, Drew, do you remember what team Ronaldo Nehemiah played for? Now,
I want to say the San Francisco 49ers.
I think you were correct. Yes, I think you were correct. Yeah. I think it was.
But don't forget the best track athlete that turned the best track athlete that played football. Bullet Bob Hayes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but Bob Hayes also played football. I think where we're going with is a track guy who probably didn't play college football, who went from playing college who went from track to football. And like I said, I promise to be more up on Ballon Robinson. More appreciate you, David Garner, Derek White, even. Derek White's chiming in and saying, I'm thinking he didn't even play football at LSU. I guess he was always been a track guy. So that's awesome. That is awesome. Ronaldo Nehemiah. Wow, that is a throwback name from. That's like if you followed football in the 80s, you just
I think
knew,
he got about
right?
3 or 4 years in though, didn't he?
He won a Super Bowl. He was on one of those Super Bowl teams.
He was on one, but
Hold
yeah,
on,
but he didn't have a long career, but he had a short career. I think he had. I know he got at least 3 in. I want to say
hold on.
he might have been on the '85 team, the second Super Bowl. I know he was on the second Super Bowl team.
Yeah. So yeah, let me see. Hold on. I'm looking it up real quick. Okay, he played yes, of course. Yeah, okay. So, bam, we're all right here. Yes, he played football. He played for the 49ers. He did win a Super Bowl, okay? He played in 40 games. He actually caught 43 passes for an average of 17.5 yards per reception, scored 4 touchdowns. This was from 82 to 84. So he was part of the
one that beat Dan Marino.
the 84 team. That was his last year playing football. In terms of return yards, because you know why he didn't play after that, because they went and drafted some kid from Mississippi Valley State, and that's why Ronaldo Nehemiah was no longer needed. Do the timeline. There it is. There it is. He had.
I wonder who that was.
Yeah, I wonder who that was as well. I'm looking to see, did he really make great impact in terms of return yards? No, just reading off some info on Pro Football Reference. He did okay, more so receiving yards. He played a full 16 games in 83 and 84. Never started more than 3 games. That was his rookie season. But Nehemiah was also the 100 ranked number 1 in the 110-meter hurdles. So I believe he won an Olympic gold medal in the Pan Am Games of 79 and the IAAF World Cup in Montreal. Probably was robbed of an opportunity to compete in the 1980 Olympics. Those Olympics the U.S. boycotted because I think they were in Russia. So that would have been his opportunity to get an Olympic gold medal, which didn't happen. And so, but he held world records. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 world records during his track running. And here's why we all remember Ronaldo Nehemiah. He was the only 4-time winner of the Superstars, a made-for-television decathlon-style competition on ABC Sports. He won the event in 81, 82, 83, and 86. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Ronaldo Nehemiah is our name of today. Shout out to Karen Griffin for bringing that up. And wow. So,
Bryan, let's pick up this show and get out that note.
All right, let's pick up our bags and get out of here. Any final thoughts as we close out?
Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, the final Road to Montgomery show will take place, and we will announce the seeds in the Tyson Foods Black College World Series and break down the teams for the Tyson Foods Black College World Series. And of course, the following Wednesday, we'll be live from Montgomery, Alabama, beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, with the first pitch.
Next week, we go into the career of Willie Gault, another track man who turned into NFL player. Hey, you guys on YouTube got me going down a dark rabbit hole, and I am loving everything about it because it's the 80s, and I love the 80s. That was my era. I grew up in the 80s, man. I love the 80s. Okay, that's going to do it for me. Interesting times, lots of encouraging words. I look forward to keeping the discussion. Let's keep our enthusiasm tempered. Progress was made. Progress is progress. So baby steps were taken, and I think we have to remember that. So let's not give up the dream. We will see more guys as more opportunities open on professional leagues and at the professional level. We will see more HBCU guys get drafted, but very important that we always encourage these guys to get an education. And, as BJ really pointed out, did a great job of pointing out that, a lot of guys are behind the 8 ball, not only on just being African-Americans, but men, and then going to a small school, an HBCU. So, look, you're working through adversity from the get-go in these leagues, and so you just got to make the most of it. And I really enjoyed hearing what Coach Prime said in response to hearing the news of Isaiah Land making the decision to transfer. But then again, we don't know all the background on it, and it's just an opportunity. So we don't know if the grass is greener, but we don't know if there's cash involved. We don't know if it was related to this weekend. So much unknown. So let's not speculate too hard or harder than we normally do. Watch out for those Twitter spaces. Watch out for the other shows. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe at my BCSN1, the number one. Go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on your Google and Apple Play Store by searching my JBN, my BCSN, and download the BCSN Pod Zone everywhere you listen and watch podcast. Just search BCSN Pod Zone. For AD Drew, who's also producer today, and my co-host, I'm Brian Fulford. Thanks for watching the Sports Wrap. Special shout out again to BJ Jones for joining us today. We are out. Peace out.
We'll holla.
But stay hard.